Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's video where I'm going to be sharing with you a very detailed but simple wine tasting guide. When it comes to the world of wine, it is so easy to become overwhelmed with all the subtle details and little things you have to pick up on that come along with a wine tasting. Our wine tasting guides at Hawkhaven do get a lot of questions very similar to this, like how do you get all these flavors from a grape? We also get a lot of questions about what it means for a wine to be full-bodied. And another question that is commonly asked in our guided tastings is, how do you swirl your wine? So I plan to address some of those questions as well in this wine tasting guide, and I think you'll find it really helpful whether you're just starting out with wine tasting or maybe you're just wanting to expand your palate. Learning the basics of a wine tasting can be very straightforward and really helpful. If you are a wine lover and you are interested in learning more about wine and even just behind the scenes of how we produce our wines at Hawkhaven, make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. That way you never miss an upload. So let's go ahead and go over some of these tips and tricks I have for you in today's video that are going to really help you get the most out of your wine tasting experience. The first and most important thing to remember when you come to Hawkhaven for a wine tasting, or to any other winery in fact, is that you're doing this for fun. You want to have fun with this experience, so going in with a mindset like that is going to really help you get the most from this wine tasting. The goal is to find a wine that you like. So forget all the rules, forget everything you think that you know about wine. The best wine tasting pairing is an open mind. Don't be afraid to try something new and don't assume you only like certain types of wines. Specifically at Hawkhaven Winery, we specialize in vinifera grapes like Pinot Grigio, Chardonnay, Merlot, and Cab Franc. Our traditional wine pairing will typically have a variety of whites, reds, and rosé, and then we'll occasionally have a sparkling or even hard cider included as well, because we really want to offer you a nice rounded experience of the Hawkhaven wines. And just to give you a little background about our wine tasting guides, they come from all walks of life and have varying degrees of wine knowledge, but all of them are so passionate about wine and so eager to share that knowledge with you. So definitely feel free to ask any questions from our wine tasting guides if you get the chance to visit Hawkhaven. They are so much fun to talk to and they love answering your questions. So the wine tasting process can be narrowed down into 5 S's: see, swirl, smell, sip, and savor. The first S is see, and once you have that wine in your glass, just before you do anything, just take a look at that color. So if the wine that you're tasting is at first a red, is it a more ruby red? Does it have a purplish red color? Is it clear or cloudy? Is the color bright or pale? The appearance alone can tell you so much about that particular wine. And it can tell you things like what type of grape was used to produce that wine. You can even get into the whole winemaking process behind that specific wine just based on the color. The next thing that you want to do just to get the most of your wine tasting experience is that second step, swirl. When you swirl your wine, it's going to release an aroma. And how you swirl is entirely up to you, but there are 2 ways that you can try. Place the glass on the bar or a flat surface, and then using your fingers on the base of the stem, move the glass in a slow and steady circular motion. And then the other method that you can try, depending on which one is more comfortable for you, is to hold the glass up by the stem and then just tilt the bowl around in circles. So now that you've been swirling the wine in your glass, you're getting that aroma. And this is when you can just stick your nose right in that wine glass. You go through the wine tasting process with all of your senses. So take a slow, deep breath, and what smells do you pick up? And this is called the wine's bouquet. And the more you practice this, the more you'll be able to pick up more scents and recognize those. But a really great basic start is to figure out whether it's a fruity or a floral aroma. And then you can try and narrow that down even more. So if you're smelling fruit, is it a citrus or a berry? A raspberry or blueberry? So it can keep going on and on. You can really break down that wine and get a sense of what flavors and aromas that wine is made of. It does come with practice, but that aroma and scent is such a huge part in the wine tasting process. And now here's the part that you've probably been waiting for. You get to take a sip of that wine. There are a few different things that you'll want to think about as you're tasting the wine aside from the flavor. The first thing is, how does it feel in your mouth? Is it crisp, light, or does it coat your tongue and kind of feel a little heavy? Is it sweet or dry? So that's the first thing that you want to think about. You really want to think about what is making up that first, what is the body of the wine? And then after that, you're going to want to take note of the flavors the same way that you did with the aromas, but you'll want to bring that into action as you're tasting the wine. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to start very basic and then start narrowing it down. The last step in the whole wine tasting experience is to really savor that wine. So in order to do this, just move the wine around in your mouth and see if you find different flavors on different parts of your tongue. Swish it around almost swish it around like mouthwash to make sure that your whole palate is involved. And after the wine leaves your mouth, how does it feel? Does your tongue feel dry? And this, by the way, would be from the tannins in the wine. But also take note of how long it takes the flavors to really dissipate and what is the overall finish that you get from that first sip of wine. And all of these things are going to come more naturally. It probably sounds a little bit overwhelming, really breaking it down and talking about it in depth. These things are really come very naturally the more you do it, and you'll get very good at determining flavor and figuring out what flavors you like. The final step in the wine tasting process is to figure out why you liked a wine and why you didn't. Making note of the qualities of a wine is a really great way to figure out if that's going to be a wine that you're going to want to invest in, or if it's a wine that you truly love. And that's why we really focus on these guided tastings at Hawkhaven, because these are such an important factor in determining the types of wines that you like. If you aren't able to taste a certain wine, it's important to know those qualities about a wine when you go to a tasting so that you can narrow it down in your search. Or if you're looking to purchase a new wine, it's good to have those things in mind from wines that you've already tasted. And you can even use the things that you don't like about a specific wine to really help your wine tasting guide find that perfect wine for you. But then again, don't let that stop you from tasting wines that you don't like, because a single varietal such as Chardonnay can be made in a variety of ways. It can be sweet or dry, oaked or unoaked. There's one little thing that could be changed in that specific wine that could be making that experience not as enjoyable as it would for another wine. So now that you were a wine tasting expert, it's time to put those skills into practice. So definitely come and visit us at Hawkhaven. We would love to give you a tasting experience, and now you know what to expect for a wine tasting experience. It's going to be very unique depending on the wine tasting guide that you get, but each experience is worth it. You figure out the wines that you really enjoy, and it's going to help you not just with wines at Hawkhaven, but also any wine that you choose. It's going to help you figure out those specific wine flavors that work for you and your palate. We will be having more wine tasting videos and tips like this, but if you ever have these questions that you want to come in and just talk to one of our wine experts, or if you have questions for our wine guides, we would love to answer your questions. So definitely come and visit us at Hawkhaven. But until then, make sure that you are subscribed, like the video if you enjoyed it. I will see you very soon in our next video.